I came to the convent in 1945. That is a long time ago. I was interested in the congregation primarily because I was taught by the sisters in school. And I knew one particular sister who was a wonderful teacher and really inspired me to think about coming to the congregation. So I attribute my vocation to her partly. I also come from a community, a little rural community in North Texas, where a lot of the young women came to the congregation. And I think I would have to say that was also part of the inspiration that led me here. The message that I would have for students here, become aware of your heritage. What's the heritage of the university? Where did it get its start? What makes it the kind of university that it is today? And to appreciate the opportunity to get an education. People can take a lot of things away from you, but they can't take away your education. So to give it your best, believe in yourself, and find those people who will support you, because we all need help along the way. So if you're not doing so well, or if you're you're down about something, there are a lot of people around here who will help you, who will lift you up, who will give you good advice. So seek that out. So discover what the heritage is and how you fit into that, and then to appreciate your education.
I have been in the religious life for I entered in 1959, so figure that out. I had the fortunate to go to a Catholic high school, and that's where the Sisters of Mercy were our educators. And all during my life of growing up and having a lot of time to be out and just be in nature, I really wanted to be a missionary sister that went to Africa. My ministry now is contemplation for the whole community, for the world, and for the sanctification of ourselves here on campus. And that's what I have been doing since 2005. At times, people from the university need a little help. They come over, we sit, we have a little session, and their hearts feel better and mine feels better. So that's kind of been my journey through life. I'm very, very happy to be a Sister of Divine Providence. It's been a journey of faith grow. It's been a journey of struggles, and joyful celebrations. My message to you dear people is stay close to your God. They're going to be deep pull on you. Darkness is all around us, but the glory of God is also there. Be true to your faith, be honest, work hard, and you will find blessings in your sorrows, in your downfalls. But there's a jewel there, and that jewel is Jesus Christ, our Savior, and the Blessed Mother. The Blessed Mother, she will talk to you. She will speak to you.
I've been a Sister of Divine. I entered the Sisters of Divine Providence in 1961 and made my first vows in 1963. So I have been a Sister of Divine Providence for 55 years. I wanted to become a sister since I was 5 years old because that's when I met my first cousin, who was a sister. At that time, her name was Sister Amelia Clare. She later went back to her baptismal name, which was Irene. So she was Irene Caesar, Sister Irene Caesar. And when I met her when I was 5 years old, I decided then that I wanted to be just like Irene. And that was reinforced when I went to kindergarten at 5, and then first grade through elementary school and high school to the Sisters of Divine Providence. And for me, they were the ideal women. They were outstanding women in my life. They were dynamic, they were energetic. I loved that they totally devoted their lives to God, and I wanted to be like them, where I totally devoted my life to God, like my cousin, like all the sisters that taught me. And so they were my motivation. I loved teaching. That I did enjoy. However, I realized that if I was going to make a difference in the world, that it had to be beyond the classroom. And so in 1976, when I had worked with a sisters lobbying group in Washington, D.C. called Network. But in 1976, I came back to San Antonio, and Communities Organized for Public Service, COPS, was 2 years old at the time. And I worked with them. I organized with COPS. And I knew when I started organizing with COPS that that was my calling as a sister.
That you do.
As of right now, I'm the Superior General of the Order, which means that, as my great-nephew says, I'm the head nun. I'm in charge of what happens to our sisters. I'm in charge of what happens to our order. And so it's an honor to be the Superior General of the congregation. What it means is I'm the leader of the sisters, and they elected me to be in this position for 6 years. I've been in this position now for 8 months, and so I have about 5.5 more years. To the students here at Our Lady of the Lake, I would say follow your dreams, develop yourself, finish your education. That's the most important thing they can do. Is finish their education so that they can develop themselves to be the most productive people they can be in their lives.
I'm actually a new sister, currently a novice, and I will be making my first vows this summer. So my journey was really a lot about educating myself and just kind of learning what this lifestyle even meant. And I went to confession on a Saturday, and when I left, on my way out, I was looking for a brochure about anything about religious life, and I didn't find one specifically, but I found a paper that said, "What's your next step?" And it was black and white, but it had like footprints in the sand. And that question just spoke to me because that's what I was wanting to know. What is my next step? Like, what am I going to do with my life? And when I turned it over, it had dates that had already passed, but at the bottom was a website. And it said they were from San Antonio. And I'm like, oh, look, a convent in Texas. I guess I could contact them. And that's how I found the Congregation of Divine Providence. Like I could say Sister Joyce helped me at the beginning as part of my discernment. One of the things she said at our first dinner was, I was a woman of Providence before I became a Sister of Divine Providence. And that statement just stuck with me, and it carries me through today. It just helps me understand that who God made us is where we need to end up being. And so answering the call is getting closer to what God wanted me to be, or how God made me. That providence is there in any way we need. And to look for God in the little things, because maybe in life we're used to trying to look for big signs, and providence speaks in the little things, in the little blessings. And so like for me, I expected I expected a huge sign of telling me, yes, you need to go to the convent. But really, it was just a magnitude of lots of little things adding up that led me here. And I'll go back to the first thing that Nun told me, that she didn't know exactly where she was supposed to be, but she knew every day she wanted to wake up and say yes to God. And I think that applies to everyone. It's not only for sisters. It applies to students as well.
I have been a Sister of Divine Providence going on 60 years. This is the 60th year, so I'm celebrating my 60th Jubilee. I have wanted to become a Sister of Divine Providence for as long as I can remember, because I had a mother who knew the Sisters of Divine Providence. She told me about them. Then I made my first communion after preparation with a Sister of Divine Providence. And it was on my first communion day that I knew God called me to become a sister. And I was age 6, and I said yes to God on that day, and I never really changed my mind. I have been an educator, worked with preschool all the way through university on various levels, and I have worked as a campus minister at the University of Texas in Brownsville, and I've done campus university ministry in Indiana in 3 universities, and I have also begun my work with vocation ministry here in San Antonio over a span of now 12 years. I love working with the students here, and I will continue to do so. I've also had the opportunity to go with many of the students as well as university faculty and staff on pilgrimages. We've gone to France 3 times, and there we have learned all about the history and heritage of our congregation by visiting all of the places where we were founded in France. And this past visit to France, Dr. Melby and her husband also went with us on this pilgrimage. So it was a great opportunity to get to know them better and to share our history, our heritage, our mission and ministry over 250 years now. And also I have been able to make mission trips, take mission trips to Puerto Rico with the students from here at the university, and those have been extremely good. The students, faculty, and staff have joined in this effort to help in outreach to those in need. So it's ongoing. We keep, dreaming and envisioning various things where we are involved with faculty, staff, and students from the university. I just would like to see us continue this magnificent collaborative effort between our congregation, the Sisters of Divine Providence, and Our Lady of the Lake University, because in being able to collaborate, we are able to do great things. We are doing that, and I just want to see us continue making a good thing ever better. So for the students here at Our Lady of the Lake, I would just want them to know that they didn't accidentally get here at Our Lady of the Lake, that it really was God's providence that guided them to come here, and they all tell me that. After they learn what the Providence spirituality is all about, they know that it was God's providence that brought them here. So I just like to constantly share that with them, that just as Providence brought you here, Providence will guide you through the journey of the rest of your life, wherever you go.
Well, I've been a sister for about 65 years. And I've been here at Our Lady of the Lake Retirement Center for about 12 years. And then around, let's see, was something in the 70s, I decided, I became very interested in what was happening in theology. There was a Time or Newsweek magazine article that came out that said, "God is dead." And I thought, this is very strange. I'm a religious member of religious order. I didn't have any idea of why they were saying that God was dead. So I decided to start taking some religion courses. I knew I wanted to be a teacher, and I was very inspired by my sisters, the sisters that I went to school with in high school in Alexandria, Louisiana. One of them was a young sister in the English department that later became the president of Our Lady of the Lake for 20 years. It was Elizabeth Ann Sultanfuss. The present library is named after her. But at that time she was maybe just about 10 years older than I, and was teaching English in the high school. And she was, not only she, but all the sisters there. It was a small school. We had, I guess the high school didn't number more than about 100. And I only went to that school for 2 years, but I was very impressed with the sisters there. And when I didn't decide to join until I was out of high school for about 2 years. But the only group that I considered was this Divine Providence group, because that was the one I was most familiar with. And be aware of what's going on in the world and what you might be able to contribute, and try not to focus only on what would be good for you, but also how you will be able to help others, and share that knowledge, because there's so many people that don't have the opportunity to get a college education. And those who do, I think, have some responsibility to be aware of how they can help at the same time, that they're pursuing their own careers. Any career is one that can be helpful to the rest of the world, if you've got that in mind.
I've been a Sister of Divine Providence for 56 years. I entered as a senior. I'm a native of San Antonio, and I entered at the lake, from the lake, and entered the convent as a senior. Well, in those days, we had a Sister of Divine Providence teaching in all the levels of the university, but also I had Sisters of the Incarnate Word in grade school, at a Catholic grade school in St. Anne's, and also at a Catholic grade school in Little Flower, were the Sisters of the Holy Spirit. And so the dedication and the faithfulness and the kindness and generosity of the sisters, and they were so dedicated to serve. In the Rio Grande Valley, I ended up helping some of the refugees, because in the 80s there were a lot of people coming across from Mexico, from Central America. And and I continue that kind of work today. I like to be able to help the immigrants that are coming, those that are coming out of detention centers. So that's one of my kind of interests right now. And I also have an interest with music. I sing with the diocesan choir, and I've also sing with the sisters here. So those are some of my two interests right now. Well, first of all, I started off teaching here at the lake at Harry Jersey as a speech pathologist, and I loved working with the students and teaching, and I did that for 20 years. Then I went on to the Rio Grande Valley, and I loved that because there were always exciting things happening, and we were fewer sisters there. And then I ended up serving 4 years in Mexico as a ministry with our sisters, and that was one of the highlights. Right now I am serving in leadership for our congregation, and that means that we work in administration, and we have to look at the big picture, but we also get to work with sisters that need some guidance in their journey or are having problems, so that has been very rewarding. And right now we're 130 sisters, and at least 100 live on this campus, so that kind of uses up all our time. Well, I think I've grown in prayer, I've grown in a contemplative life, but I also realize that I've had wonderful experiences with knowing all kinds of people during all the years of ministry, and I've enjoyed those. I think my message is that college is such an important time that you look for meaningful answers, you ask questions, and maybe you come up with or discern what you're going to do with your life and what the most important things are in your life.
I've been a Sister of Divine Providence for pretty many years. I entered as a actually teenager, 16 years old, in 1951. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful life for me. For me, it was a good choice. I am thankful every day that that's what I chose. I'm originally from the Texas Hill Country, grew up on a farm, and then decided that I wanted to be a sister, and first went to the Holy Spirit Sisters, because I knew them from summer Bible school, and then I had two aunts in this order, and by the time I sort of visited both of those Congregational Mother Houses, then I decided that the Congregation of Divine Providence is where I belonged. That's where I fit, and it was good. And I had a big setback at age 13. That summer of the polio epidemic, I was one of the people with the polio, and I was quite seriously impaired, so it looked like I might as well give up that dream. It would never happen for me. So I prayed that I would just die, because what's a useless life just laying there or being in an iron lung. And then after some days or weeks, I don't have a concept of time. Yeah. I decided, I knew that I was not going to die. I was getting well because my fingers started moving and my hands could move, and I thought, oh, I'm not dying. I'm getting well. And so I remember just saying to God, okay, we have to change this. Now I'm going to start praying to get well enough that I can still fulfill my dream of being a teacher, of being a sister teacher, not just any teacher. And of course, it took a lot of years of rehab. And indeed, in 1951, I was able to enter, and I was able to physically manage. I was on a walking cane at the time, and I went through my stages of rehabbing. We love our OLLU students, and those of you who have visited the convent, they know it, and they're welcome anytime. And I'd say, enjoy your youth while you have it. Learn all you can. Make good, deep, healthy relationships, and put God in the middle of all of that, in the center of all of that. And give yourself time to think and to pray and to be quiet, that you can hear that little soft, quiet voice inside of you giving you directions of how you're to spend the rest of your life. God calls, either to priesthood, to sisterhood, to single life, to marriage. We are all called, and to hear God's call, I think we have to give ourselves that quality prayer, quiet time, and seek out those who might have conversations with that can, help us talk through it and find our way. So I'd say, live fully. That's what I would say. Study hard. Yeah, use your talents.
Well, thank you very much.
And we love you.
Oh.
I've almost celebrated my 50th Jubilee year coming up in about 4 years, so it's been almost 50 years that I've been a sister. I worked Actually, I just received my master's from Warden School in social work. I'm a social worker by profession. I started out teaching and decided that was not my field. So I went to Warden, got my master's degree in social work, and was fortunate enough to go visit a friend of mine in New Orleans who was at a little neighborhood agency called Hope House, which is where Dead Man Walking was filmed, and it's in an all African American housing area. They had a week-long workshop called Pathways to Justice, and it included, people came in from all over the country for this workshop. Monday, the day was on welfare. Another day, the day was on the criminal justice system, so things like that. And visited with people who were actually in the system somehow or another. And it gave me a real sense of what I wanted to do with my life, that I really wanted to work for justice, and I really wanted to work somehow with the poor. We had a soup kitchen that I used to go and volunteer at, and it was open 7 days a week, 365 days of the year. Even when the hurricane came through, they had gas stoves, so we didn't need the electricity. So we lit candles all over. So the people that came, really enjoyed the ambiance of coming into the soup kitchen, and people were treated with such dignity and respect. So that's really where my heart is, working with the poor. Right now I am the formation director, as I said before, for the congregation, and that has also been a gift, to walk with women who are interested in religious life and to help them through the different phases. So one of them will make first promises this summer, and then I'm moving out of that in the summertime to work with our retired sisters, which is another love I have of the aged, the elderly. I really learned so much from them. I think the biggest lesson for me is I was going to be of service to help, and what I realized through those years is that really I learned from the people that I worked with. I wasn't one bringing them, they were bringing me learning, and they were actually increasing my faith because of the struggles that they had and their determination to try to do better, to make something of themselves, and to learn the oppressive systems within which they had to work. The message is to be open to whatever God might be calling them to, whether it's married life, religious life, single life, and to really open their hearts to be aware of what's around them, and to learn as much as they can while they're in school, and then to apply that to whatever it is that they're going to do in the future, and to trust that God walks with them, no matter what, that God is there with them.
Providence is there, whether we experience it fully or less fully at times in our lives, but trust that God is going to be there for you. There is a call, and that there is something that God has for each person, and it's so distinctive, but I think we have to be patient and let whatever that is evolve. I grew up in central Louisiana, and my teachers were from a community in Lafayette. They did not have a high school, so the only high school in town was the girls' high school where the Sisters of Divine Providence taught. And so that was my first contact with the sisters, and somehow, how does one experience a call? It happens. I remember thinking, God, I don't really want to do this, but what I absolutely do want is whatever you want, but you'll have to let me know. So I really prayed and spent time with the sisters. I started out teaching in high school for 5 years before I came here to teach at the university. So I enjoyed that very much. I had a 6-year period where I was on the general council earlier in my life, and I had 6 years in which I worked with the young women coming into the congregation. So I was novice director. So what's the highlight, I guess, is not a specific instance, but the great privilege of being a member of this community and being able to serve the folks around us. I love Our Lady of the Lake. I love its mission. It's been very important to me for many, many years.
I was born in Iota, Louisiana in 1932, so as you can see, I'm 85 years old. I'll be 86 in September. And I came to the convent when I was 16, going on 17. And I joined the Sisters of Divine Providence because they taught me in my little community of Iota. I thank God every day. God is providence. God is always enlightening me that I can do these things or do them better. And like I said before, if I had my life to live over again, I would do it again, and perhaps better than I've done. And Sister Edwina was always my mentor. I loved her, and I'll never forget, we had gone on, this is really going back, I was about in the 3rd grade, and we went on a field trip, and she had bought some new shoes, and her shoes were probably very tight. They were new, she was breaking them in. And she looked at my feet, and she said, "What size shoe you wear?" And I said, "I don't know, my mother buys my shoes." And so she said, "Well, let's see if I can wear your shoes, because you're gonna wear mine and stretch them." And so it worked. And so I went home and I said, "Mom, guess what? I wore Sister Edwina's shoes to stretch them." She said, "You could fit in her shoes?" Yes, and she had some high heels on. It were about those 2-inch Oxford shoes. But anyway, that's one of my most pleasant memories, to know that I had worn Sister's shoes. And when Sister died, I happened to be working here, and I got in front of the group and shared that with the community, that I walked in Sister Edwina's shoes. And I think that was part of the blessings of my life, that God gave me to walk in her shoes and become a sister. Now, I retired from the aisle in October 29th of 2015. I've been here in this hall, Reagan Hall, and I volunteer services whenever I can, drive sisters to shop or doorbell duty, whatever is needed at the time that I can do. And I guess basically that's it, my journey so far. You know, there's a lot that went in between, but I've been very pleased with all the places I've been with. Large communities, as few as 3, and as large as 16 people. But if I had to do my life all over again, I would join the sisters. I'd probably try to do it better than, you know, how it is. You're in training at first, and then you learn the ropes, and the older I get, the more I appreciate my call to the religious life. Do the best that you can. You have God-given talents, and each of you are an individual person. Be yourself and trust in providence, and whenever you get in a bind, call on God and trust in God, and God will always be there with you. So God governs and rules and provides for all things, and trust God. God bless all of you.